That is going to be interesting. Dana Perino sitting down with Howard Schultz. You'll see the full interview at 2 p.m. on Fox News. The influence and the positioning of a third-party candidate generally gets dismissed because not one of them have won. But they do influence elections, and there is always the possibility, as has happened, that third or outside party candidates emerge to become major party candidates or major parties. Remember, the root of the Republican Party was that, with Abraham Lincoln. To former Ross Perot campaign manager Russell Verney. Russell, very good to have you.
Neil, it's always an honor to be on with you, and especially pleased to visit with your viewers today.
No, the honor is ours, Russell. And it's interesting because I think the Ross Perot campaign that you oversaw was a testament to something we rarely give credence to. That is the power and influence of a third-party candidate. Ross Perot garnered 19% of the vote in that election. Now, many who lament George Bush Sr.'s defeat will blame Ross Perot. But the fact of the matter is he got a lot of votes. Now, he didn't get any electoral votes, and hence the argument that it's very hard for a third-party candidate to do that. But it's not impossible, right?
It's certainly not impossible, Neil, and it's very probable even that it could happen. And, you know, in 1992, George H.W. Bush, the incumbent president, wanted Ross Perot in the race because it would split the anti-incumbent vote. Democrats this time around are saying we don't want an independent because it will split the anti-incumbent vote and we won't be able to win. Well, George Bush lost in '92, and whether or not it has any impact on the Democrats this time around is yet to be seen. But it's called competition, and competition is a mainstay of American politics. We shouldn't have just two political parties. We should have many choices so that someone like me, who's a raging moderate, can have his voice heard within the political process. It's not just Republicans and Democrats who are entitled to a voice in politics. We all are, and we should have more candidates so we can each express our vote and our goals and our aspirations for the country.
You know, Russell, I'm not blowing you smoke, but I will be forever grateful to you and Ross Perot for alerting the nation to the urgency of our building debt. You did so years ahead. What was not a very fashionable or cool thing to campaign on. And you guys were both very prescient about that with those little charts and graphs that a lot of people said would fall on deaf ears in America. He got 1 out of 5 voters' attention with that, so touche to both of you. But tradition remains that the third-party candidate is a spoiler, and I go back to 1968 with Hubert Humphrey on Democrats blaming George Wallace siphoning off votes from him to hand the election at the time to Richard Nixon. What do you think of that?
Well, George Wallace became a regional candidate and dominated the southern region, which did impact the Democrats' ability to get votes. But again, it's competition.
And by the way, set the stage for what would be a Republican South after that. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But that was all about competition. If Hubert Humphrey couldn't win those votes, he didn't deserve them. He had every opportunity to appeal for them, and he just wasn't able to win those votes over. There's so many instances, though, where, like, Ralph Nader is blamed for the Bush-Gore election when it's not true. It was the faulty design of the ballot that delivered some 10,000 votes to Pat Buchanan that caused the upset in that election.
But I'm glad you mentioned that example, because though he was hardly a factor nationally, in Florida in a very close race, many argue he proved the difference and made it impossible for Al Gore to make it to the White House. There are a lot of these kind of examples, but you say the chips fall where they may and often do, and it's up to the major candidates to sell their campaigns, right?
Absolutely. And again, competition from Ralph Nader wasn't the cause of the problem for Al Gore. It was the ballot design in one county that cost him some 10,000 possible votes down there that upset the Florida election. So I'm all for competition. I think we should have more candidates. If people don't like more candidates, then they should look at what's called ranked choice voting, which allows you to rank the choice of your top 3 candidates, and you get to redistribute votes if your candidate loses, but nobody got a majority. So there's ways around the impediments that people claim exist to independent candidates, but a competition of ideas is healthy for America.
You know, and if you look at all parliamentary systems across the country, I'm not saying we go the parliamentary route and all, or even in countries that have an amalgam that's like parliamentary, like our republic system. there are many candidates. In Italy, one of my favorite countries, you might be surprised, will often feature half a dozen candidates at one time competing for the voters' attention. And they get out all their ideas. Some are deemed cockamamie, some are deemed legitimate, and let the voters sort it out. But they're not stupid. It doesn't have to be vanilla or chocolate. You can throw a macadamia nut in there, right?
Yeah, one of the other benefits of an independent candidate, should they ever get elected, is that the Republicans don't need them to fail, and the Democrats don't need them to fail. Like right now, there's a Republican president, so the Democrats need him to fail so they can get back into power. If there's a Democratic president, the Republicans need him to fail so they can get back into power. With an independent, they can build coalitions for each issue, whether it's the debt or trade or immigration or whatever the issue is. From people from both sides that agree with the vision and the policy of the president, and start moving America forward instead of keeping it at a stalemate.
Yeah, the one good thing about an independent is he or she would not be captive to one party's ideology or another. They'd be pragmatic enough to consider all, and I think most are in this country are fairly pragmatic when it comes to their own views and can't be typecast with one party or the other.
I agree with you, and I think America right now likes having a divided government between the administration and the legislature because they're just afraid of what one party will do.
Right.
Let's get cooperation among both parties to move the country forward.
Russell, I know my producer's going to kill me, but I'd be curious if you could settle an old private score with me concerning Ross Perot's re-entry in the '92 race. Do you think had he not had that brief period where he jumped out of the race and then back in other words, if he stayed in the race from the very beginning when he was polling ahead of Bill Clinton and George Bush Sr., he'd have won the whole thing?
It's possible, but also, Neil, the exit polling that was conducted by the news media on election night, one question was asked of Bush and Clinton voters, if you thought Perot could win, would you have voted for him? And the analysis of that question was never reported. The analysis is that if people thought Ross could win, even after getting out and back in, he would have actually won the election in '92.
Yeah, people don't like to be seen wasting their vote, and that is the typical media play, and I think that media play is wrong. Russell, thank you very much. I really wasn't pretending when I said you are an historic figure in politics, and what you and Ross Perot offered in 1992, you were way ahead of the game, way ahead of deficit issues, and you weren't afraid to tell the American people about it. We need a lot more of that today, but we're not getting it. Russell Verney, thank you very much.